Can you please state your name, date of birth, and where you are from?
Yes, I am Kathleen A. Horschmeyer. I am 86 years old, and I'm from Colwich, Kansas. I'm Rachel's grandmother.
And can you tell me the name of your late husband, my grandpa, who was in the Air Force, and how old he would be today?
Yes, his name is Donald Horsch, and he would be 89 years old. He has been deceased since 2001.
Did he get drafted into the Air Force, or did he join himself?
He actually enlisted because if he would have gotten drafted, they'd put him in the Marines, and he chose not to go there.
What was going on in the world at this time that they were drafting?
It was another war going on overseas. It was the Korean War, and he went into the service and he ended in 4 years. He was a sergeant after 4 years in service. He never served overseas because at the time he could choose somebody else that really wanted to go, and he could ask them to go in his place, and they allowed that at that time.
When he first enlisted, were you guys already married?
Yes, we had been married a year when he went into service at San Antonio, Texas, where he took his basic.
Where did you get stationed after San Antonio?
After San Antonio, we went to Wyoming, and we were there a year. And then we went to Greenville, South Carolina for a year. And then we went to Clovis, New Mexico, and was there just a few months when he had to go back to Cheyenne, Wyoming for some more training. And for 3 months we were there, and we went back to Clovis, New Mexico. And after another year, we went back to Greenville, South Carolina, and stayed the end of his 4-year enlistment.
While he was in the Air Force, what were living conditions like? Was it tough?
It was really tough. I joined him in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and they would have put us in boxcars if we chose to rent there. And I mean, it was rent, not give. And my dad had taken me up to Cheyenne from Willowdale, Kansas, is where my parents lived. And he said living conditions were not, we were going to find something better. So what he did was bought a trailer home, and we made payments then for several years to pay for that. But that's what we lived in and towed our trailer every time we moved.
So you never lived on base at all?
No, I did not. Yes, I lived on base in Cheyenne, Wyoming, but it was in our trailer house. We rented a lot there I think it was $15 a month for rental for our trailer house.
Do you remember what his pay was like? How much?
I can tell you, after he became a sergeant, his pay was his was $55 a month, and mine was $99 a month. And that's what we had to pay, about $150 a month combined. And that was for everything except we had cheaper, like I say, rental for our trailer. But it was tough going. A lot of people were very, very hungry at the end of the month. They just didn't know how to have The worst thing I think that I did, we were shopping and we liked tea, hot tea or cold iced tea, and we picked up a box and it was green tea, which we didn't realize, but we drank it because that was the allotment for the month. And I haven't drank green tea since.
So you said that you both got paid. Why was your pay more than his?
Supposedly he could live on base, but I had to rent something to live in. That was the main thing. But I did work, and the best I could find was I worked in a clothes cleaning place, and I worked in a dime store. For a lot of times, for 2 different places, I worked in dime store. The pay was very low, but it was at least something more to help us get by.
Did you have any kids while he was in the Air Force?
No, we did not.
Would that have been pretty difficult, I would assume, if you had?
It would have been, but we would have welcomed him. But I just never got pregnant for the years that he was in the Air Force. So we were married 7 years time. We had our first child then.
Was it hard on your marriage with him being in the Air Force?
Not at all. Not at all. But we were glad to get out. There was no re-enlistment at all. No, didn't even consider it.
Were you worried that he would have to go overseas?
Absolutely. Every time they'd come up with this. And I think it was twice, actually, that he was put in line to go overseas. He was a supply sergeant. That's what he worked at. And he liked his job in the Air Force. But he didn't want to make it a going thing.
So you said that your brother was also in the Air Force?
Yes, I had a brother. My oldest brother went into the Air Force during World War II. And he was a rear gunner of some sort, would be actually when he went in. That was what they put him in. But then he worked his way up, and he was a co-pilot. And they were going across the United States, heading for the war when peace was signed. And he didn't ever have to go over, which was a real blessing for our family.
Just start.
While my brother was in service, they had a swimming pool, of course, in the base. And he went swimming one day, and he hit his head on the side of the swimming pool, after he jumped in somehow. And several years later, he got Parkinson's disease, and he was 52 years old at that time. And it was finally, that's what he died from. But he suffered for about 20 years with Parkinson's disease, which was a hard thing on his family.
At the time when he hit his head on the pool, was anyone aware that there would be long-term consequences from it?
No, they thought that everything was fine, but after he got this Parkinson, they said that's probably what caused it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's a very debilitating thing to have, and it finally affects your mind too. But he was a happy-go-lucky guy, and a good-looking one too.
Did he stayed in the Air Force even after he hit his head on the pool, like he just recovered?
He just recovered, yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but then he didn't re-enlist either after his time was up.
And you said that was during World War II?
Yes.
Do you remember, how old were you during World War II, about how old?
14 years old. When it was declared, I was 14 years old.
So you remember
Oh,
that?
yeah. Yes, it was a horrible thing. My mother cried immediately because she knew my brother was at the age he'd have to go in service. And then I had another brother. I had two others, and one went into the Marines and one was drafted in the Air. He was in the Army, regular Army. So I've seen enough of that. I'd rather have them home, I'll tell you, which like everybody else would too. Just grateful none of my grandchildren have served in service. I know you're supposed to be glad for, because we need those kind of good ones too, but I'm just thankful nobody went in.
What was it like at home during World War II? How did things change?
Oh, how did they change? I know there was, sugar was rationed, and fruit, you couldn't hardly buy fruit because it was a lot of it shipped in. Mm-hmm. You didn't have all the fruit. I know bananas were a real rarity, and my mother shopped at a little store. That's where she'd take her eggs in, and she'd take her cream down the creamery to sell it, and that was the money to buy groceries with. And if you run out, you just wait till next month, just like we did in service. You just didn't have any savings. People just didn't have savings because you didn't, like we weren't married long enough to accumulate any. But our grocery man always put some bananas back for Mom. So on Saturday evening we'd go shopping, and she usually did get bananas just because of the grocery man. His customers that shop there all the time, he saved them for them, not somebody just coming in, But yeah, there was so many things. Tires. You couldn't buy a new car. There was no new cars. We finally got a Hudson, a 44 Hudson in later years there. But no, it was, there was a lot of things. It was hard to get shoes. A lot of times you couldn't get your size in shoes because everything was gone to support the war. What else was rationed? I know sugar was, gas was rationed too. The farmers got priority, of course, for their fields, but you didn't have much. I know we ended up, the car went bad, and we ended up with a 36 Ford, a real old one. But it run. Yeah. I can't remember what else during the war was rationed, but there was a lot of things that we just didn't have. But we were lucky. They always butchered our own. We had our chickens, we had our beef, we had our pork, and always a huge garden that we canned from. So we didn't really know what we were being deprived of. But and we did buy candy. We made our own, if you had the sugar. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, that was many, many years ago. My goodness.
With you living on a farm and having your older brothers away, did that make things different of taking care of because you had less help? Yeah, we girls worked out in the field too, especially my next older sister, Mary. I helped more in the household effects, but the garden and milking in the morning and in the evening. It was getting up early and doing that before we went to school. Yeah, we all milked cows, except my dad. He took care of the other livestock while we'd be milking. He always said his hands didn't fit the tits. I think it was an excuse. Oh, yeah. But, yeah, we had a riding pony, so we were well taken care of out there on the farm. But you did say Mary did some of the work that she probably, or a different type of work than she probably
She run the tractor.
Mm-hmm.
I actually run, like when they put hay in stacks, they didn't always bale it or anything else, but they just had a haystack is what they had. And I run one of those that brought the hay up, and they lifted up, and then the man took care of it up there and made the stack. And they taught me everything the first time I went out, but how to stop the tractor, and I didn't know. You just pushed in the clutch. So I about run into the haystack, but I managed. They were all yelling at me, what to do. So I did it after that. I did know then. So I learned to drive. Yeah, we learned to drive all kinds of machine. But what was there? There was an old truck
and there was a tractor, one tractor Dad had. And when they cut weed in the spring, in the summer, it was, they pulled the combine to thresh it, you know. There was no automatic combines. And somebody had to be on the tractor and somebody had to be on the combine to use those levers there, which Dad always did. And I can remember going down the road and look around, and there was Dad trying to roll a cigarette in the wind, his own, you know. They took, yeah, Prince Albert. Yeah. I got to tell one other thing about, I had 3 brothers, and as they got older, my dad promised them $1,000 if they weren't smoking by the time they, I don't know if it's 18 or 21, I think it was 21. And all 3 brothers got their $1,000, and we girls asked why we didn't. And he said, well, women aren't supposed to smoke, you know, it was a man thing. And he said, besides, the husband takes care of the wife don't bring in the money, she just stays at home. That was my dad's idea. That's not true.
Yeah, you said you worked, so I mean,
We did.
yeah.
We did, yeah. Now, funny world. And they've been fighting ever since.
Well, I think that's all the questions I
That's it.
have.
Well, I don't know anything else either.
Well, thank you so much for doing
I
this.
don't know, my scratchy voice, I don't even know if you can hear me.
Oh, I'm sure it's all good. Thank you so much, Grandma.
Well, you're welcome anytime.